I think the thing I like most about teaching in the broadcasting department is that I'm never quite sure what we're going to be doing. You're never quite sure what's going to happen. You're never quite sure what projects are going to go on. You're never quite sure what piece of equipment is going to break down and make your life a living hell.
If Mr. Pinelli was an animal, he'd be a beaver, because he's very diligent, he works hard, and he chews on wood.
If Mr. Pinelli were an animal, he'd be a koala, because koalas are sweet and nice.
Teaching TV is, my best analogy is, if you know the Roadrunner cartoons, Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote, they always, are battling it out. And with teaching TV, a lot of the times I feel like I'm the Wile E. Coyote, and he takes the Acme toolkit and he has the side of the mountain and he paints the tunnel, and the Roadrunner comes by and runs right through it, and he tries to run through the tunnel and whack, he smashes up against the brick wall. A lot of the times in TV, I feel that we're just bumping up into that whacking into the brick wall, and it's usually 99% of the time because you're dealing so much with hardware and equipment, and I mean, we are sort of cutting edge here, so we kind of have to deal with that. And that's not enjoyable at all. That's not enjoyable. Working with the students and working on projects, that I enjoy. And in theater, I did more of that. That's all I did. Whereas now, unfortunately, I had to spend way too much time dealing with computers that are evil. Funny moments happen all the time. I mean, funny moments to me around here are like, Mr. Pinelli, the tape won't play, and we look in the machine and the tape's not in the machine. So, of course, I can't play. Or this machine won't work and because the machine's not turned on. We make things. We produce things. We work on creating projects. And that's a challenge. And while I never found it not enjoyable, I never found it particularly fun. A challenging moment is like when you, like with the awards ceremony. I find that the most challenging because it's sort of like live theater. You never know what's going to happen. And like some award ceremonies have gone perfectly smoothly, like not a hitch, and they're kind of boring from a technical point of view. And some of them, like this last one, we had problems that we had never had before. And I think people in the audience didn't know. People in the audience never knew anything was wrong. But people who were backstage, and we all knew there were things wrong, but it was exciting and fun because that's when the challenge, you see what people are really capable of, and everybody stepped up, and everybody did what they knew they had to do, and there were no problems, and we solved the problem, which was kind of cool. I kind of enjoyed having that experience because I hate being bored.
For me to pick one event that's most memorable with Mr. Pinelli, because honestly, every day there's something that makes us laugh or something funny that happens that we just kind of chuckle about. So I would say that as I look back, kind of every day has been fun with Mr. Pinelli, just because he's a great guy to be around. I will say there is one thing that's funny about Mr. Pinelli, and that is when he tries to spit things out in a hurry, he just ends up stammering and stuttering all over his words, and then he can't think of the word, and we all laugh about it because it's such a unique Pinelliism that when he tries to talk, all his words get twisted up.
Mr. Pinelli has given me a couple of funny memories, and the one I will remember the most is when he and a few of our friends from school here went out for dinner. It seemed like Mr. Pinelli wanted to decide where we were going to go for dinner, but it wasn't working out that way, and somebody else took the bull by the horns. So when we got to the place, Mr. Pinelli wasn't all excited about the food and didn't really care for it, and squirmed in his seat as each plate was passed around to share. But he kept his mouth shut that time, so I thought that was really out of character and funny for him.
I think the most important thing I can teach my students is responsibility. I think too many people don't take their responsibilities seriously. Like I said in class, and you're in an English class, and if you don't get your paper written, the only person that suffers is you. In our area, if you don't do your projects, if you don't have things ready to go, if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, there are concerts that won't get on the air. There are retiree videos that won't get done. There are senior profiles that won't get done. And if you take on the job, you take on the responsibility of doing the project, you have to do it, and you have to be responsible for it. And sometimes that means having to come in after your project is all done and the machine eats the audio and the audio is no longer there, And I've had students that have walked out and said, I give up. And you go, when that happens, you go, well, I failed, because obviously they haven't learned that they have a responsibility. And there are other people that just go, oh my, that's disappointing. Sometimes they say it differently than that. And then they just do it again. And like, then you go like, they have learned a valuable lesson that whether or not they're doing this for career is immaterial. It's a valuable lesson no matter what you do in life. You have to take a certain responsibility, and to do well takes work, and sometimes it takes a lot of hard work. And that's the thing I think people have to learn, because I have found that most people who are capable of most anything they want to do is just that they're lazy, and lazy people don't accomplish anything.
What can I say about Mr. Pinelli? He, no matter how many times we did get in trouble for all the stupid teenage stunts that we pulled, he was always there. He was always supporting us. He was my favorite teacher in high school, without a doubt. He taught us everything, and I hope that, you know, in 10 or 15 years here, we've served him well, and that I hope he's proud of us, and I hope he sees that none of us would be in TV, film, Hollywood, Milwaukee, Chicago, LA, whatever, if it wasn't for him. So he's meant a lot to us.
I think one of the things that makes Mr. Pinelli a really good teacher is he appreciates creativity, and he's able to encourage kids to be creative, yet he's not terribly judgmental about what they produce. And I think he gently encourages all of his students to grow and to take risks and to expand their knowledge base. And he does it in a really safe environment that allows them to become good communicators and strong broadcast students. And I think that that's one of the strongest things about him, is he uses the backdrop of broadcasting to teach creativity and self-expression, and I think that that's a really important skill.
Well, I always wanted to teach. I mean, I knew I wanted to be a teacher. What I was going to teach, I had no idea. I mean, when I first went to college, they had me earmarked as a history teacher, and I was supposed to become a history teacher. I was going to major in history, and then I realized that history majors had to like write these really long, boring papers on obscure topics that nobody really cares about. And I had done theater throughout high school, and I had enjoyed it. Like my graduation from high school was our theater banquet, our theater awards night, not our graduation. That was just boring. I could care less about that. And like jobs sort of appeared out of the blue for me. Like, I did a stint professionally singing and playing in bands. I toured for a theater group for a while. I got a teaching job because my high school theater teacher developed lung cancer because I had gone to Maine South, and he developed lung cancer, and he asked me to take over his job. And unfortunately, he did not recover from that, and so I went to work at Maine South. So, I mean, so I've gotten jobs in, I feel, unfortunate ways, but I was there, and I was able to step into that position. But I taught theater for 12, 15 years. My first master's was in theater, and I loved it. It was fun. I taught at Maine South from 1974 to 1985. And then when I came here, I met my wife, and we got married. And it turned out that my wife was a senior at Maine South the year I started working there. And Lynn Zielinski, the year before I came here, Lynn was a finalist for the Teacher in Space program. And I applied, and I didn't get in. And Lynn, but an ex-Maine South student who was teaching physics at Glenbrook North got in, and I was here for about a month, and I'm walking down the hall, and the person I was with introduced me to Lynn and said, here's Lynn Zielinski, she was our Teacher in Space candidate, because they knew that I'd applied for it. And I looked at her and said, I hate you. You got in and I didn't. And I walked away. I didn't mean it mean. I was joking, in my usual joking way. And about a month later, one of my students goes, well, you were Ms. Zielinski's teacher. And I go, oh, no, I would remember that. And it turns out that I had directed Lynn, while I was still going to Maine South, they had hired me during college to teach their summer drama program. And I directed Lynn in 3 plays in one summer. And I did not remember her. And she even had the lead in the children's show Prospero's Magic Cape, and she was Ariel. And then she showed me the pictures, and I went, oh, okay, you're right. But, you know, it's been fun working with her because, you know, with her I got to work with the gadget program. And I've done things that nobody else has ever had the chance to do. I was able to use the washroom at the top of the launch tower when the shuttle goes off. And you see the pictures of the astronauts, they go into the shuttle, they get in. At that top of the tower there's a washroom because people work there. And I got to flush. I didn't actually use it. I flushed the toilet at the top of the launch tower. I was actually inside the crawler that brings the shuttle out there. I mean, I got to stand my head inside of a space shuttle. I mean, I've gotten to do some way cool things that nobody else ever gets a chance to do. And those opportunities I will miss. And my wife and I traveled to Myanmar in a number of years ago and spent a week there. It was the most difficult, challenging traveling I've ever done in my life. And we've done a lot of kind of difficult things because the countries are so screwed up from their government. But it was also the most exciting. It was the most interesting. The challenge of doing that, you know. Going to the Hyatt in Waikiki Beach is not challenging. It's fun, but it's not challenging. And you don't remember much about it, but I remember that. The challenge of working with students here, I mean, I will miss working with people. I will not miss the hardware aspect, but I will miss working with people because every once in a while somebody will do something, you'll go, that's cool. That you have, it's like all of a sudden, or people will surprise you and they'll do something that's like extremely creative and you go like, wow, I don't think I could have done that. That's fun to watch.
Mr. Pinelli is my early morning buddy. We get here around a little before 7, and he luckily comes in to the library every day to get his coffee. And you'd think getting your coffee would be maybe a 3-minute ordeal. With Mr. Pinelli, it's great because it's about 45 minutes worth, and I get the morning news and all of his personal news every morning.
You know, I don't think I could pick like the student I'm most proud of. Because everybody is different, and you know, and sometimes some of the students that I'm the most proud of are the ones that came into the program with the least amount of obvious ability, but yet by the end they were doing really, really great things. Like in my TLS class. I mean, in my TLS class, I have students who, when they first walked in here, wouldn't do anything, and at the end I would say, okay, let's get the studio set up, and they'd turn on the cameras, they turn on the lights. I have some of my advanced students that don't know how to turn on the cameras in the studio, but my TLS students can. So it's all relative. It's all relative. It's where people start, where people end up, and you know where they're going to, hopefully where they're going to get to someday, no matter what they decide to do.